Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. Yes, that timer was way off because I didn't start it on time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Star Trek New Worlds today. As I put that in the right position. If you are catching us on the replay, thank you for catching us on the replay. If you are catching us live, thank you. Welcome. And we will tap into you in just a moment. So a couple things. One, I'm curious to hear from you in the comments, whether you are live with us now or whether you're with the chat, whether you saw the notification about today's live stream. I only published it an hour or so before the show, and a little experimentation here to see whether that works better for the live stream or not, as far as like YouTube putting it out there, or is it better to do it 24 hours before and sort of, you know, let you all see it. You let me know in the notes, in the comments, and the chat right here, right now. But if you're just joining us and you're wondering what in the world are you talking about, Tony? What is this Star Trek New Worlds thing? Well, we are a 4X turn-based strategy game set in the Starfleet universe using the rule set of the Federation and Empire game as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau, and we bring it to you live here on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. So this is a game that we play. We have fun doing it, and like to share all the exciting news with you. And of course, in today's episode, what do we got? What kind of exciting things? Well, as you may have seen on the thumbnail, the dominoes are beginning to drop. Is this the end of a player? In a war game, we always have players that win and players that lose. I mean, winners and losers is kind of part of how these games play. So are we at the beginning stages of losing a player? Is a player about to get bumped out of the game because of another faction coming in and stomping them out? Well, we will talk about that in a moment. And we will discuss the big battles and the big consequences that sort of initiated that thumbnail or like brought that about. So big battles, big consequences. We're also going to be talking about strategies for the underdog, the person who is on the back foot, so to speak. How can they recover? How can they come out? Because there is a way to tuck and roll and come out of these kinds of things. The question is, can they do it? We'll talk about strategies to do that. Also, with this sort of changing dynamic on the map, what is the state of play in the power dynamics of what's going on? There are some other key events that are occurring throughout the map, and the world, she is a-changing, or in this case, the galaxy, she is a-changing. So what's happening? How are things switching up, and what's the consequence of these changing tides of happenstance in the game. And of course, we're going to go over the turn 62 reveal. But before I do that, let me jump into les comments and chitty chat with all of you. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let's big wave to Jim. Fusion beams warming up. Bill, heyo. We've got Eugene. 10 more minutes, and then the weekly wait is over. Breaking news. Anxiously awaiting the updates, including the W era ship ? What is? Or I think you're thinking the M or the GW era ship. Was it an error or a great opportunity for someone? And then, of course, we've got Paul. And Paul is in the house. Chuck is here. Happy Hamburger Day. Woo-whoop. Eugene also says, because of your game, I purchased the Federation Empire game from ADB. Looking forward to reading the rules. Maybe someday I will get to play. Well, speaking of the folks at ADB, I want to do a quick shout out before we sort of really get going here. So, unbeknownst to many of you who do watch this live stream, there was a bit of a tragedy that happened in the life of one of our players, and some in this tragedy, a bunch of their ADB books and references and various things were lost. And then, because of his contact with ADB reached out to him and sent him all the stuff that he lost as a result of this life incident that occurred. So, and I am not in tune with the greater personalities at ADB, so I apologize if I'm getting this wrong. But I'm told to give a shout out to Go Cameron or Camarian. So that's a pseudonym for one of the key folks over at ADB, and so just as far as a general comment to all you folks at ADB, if any of you do watch this show, as a member of the community, as a person who enjoys the games that you publish, big shout out and thank you to all of you over at ADB and the greater community for being able to support one of our players in time of need and setting them up for success as far as, you know, putting a little joy in their life as opposed to some of the negative things that are occurring at this time. So without sort of dwelling on that, just want a big shout out, big props, big thank you to ADB for stepping up and making that stuff available to our players. So thank you very much. Bill says, okay, so Bill says ADB was way cool. I had purchased $500 worth of stuff, lost everything in a house fire, and they helped me out and gave me a huge break on replacement. Yeah, Gene. So there you go. Bill's our player, and he had a house fire. There you go. And so lost everything, and ADB was good enough to step up and get that stuff out to him. So thank you very much, ADB. That's awesome. Let's take a moment and reset and get ourselves into the mindset for what is about to come. Let me set the stage. As you all know, leading up to this live stream, we have all been party to and witness to the growing four powers war that has occurred on the border between the ISC, the Interstellar Concordium, yellow on the map, and the Hydran, depending on your perspective, heretical, but theocracy in green and white. There's been an epic struggle back and forth between these two factions. Initially, it looked like the Hydrans were sweeping into ISC space, and then the valiant ISC rallied to the cause and pushed them back to the border. And since then, there has been a tussle back and forth between the two major fleets amassed on this line in the sand. Other new fronts have been opening up along their long, stretched-out lateral border on the map. And this turn, a critical battle occurred, a critical conflict resolution outcome has tipped the scales in one faction's advantage. Will this be the first domino that falls that will signal the beginning of the end for this faction? Or will they rally again, or maybe for the first time, and come back and win this war that is so fluid, going back and forth between these two factions? So without further ado, let me dive into the map. Ba-boom! All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have the border. Let me zoom in one more so we can get a little bit of a better view. And before we go into the ships, I want to be really clear. This is the results of this conflict happened late last night, as in today's Saturday morning, late Friday night, at least my local time. And I am looking at this map for the first time. I got news late last night that there had been a certain kind of outcome, but I didn't know what it looked like. I am looking at it for the first time with you right now here on the map. Let me take away the ships. And let's see what's going on. Boom! Oh my God. All right. Maybe a little bit melodramatic. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out for you two key things that have occurred. All right. Let's start with yellow and work our way down. We can see two key pieces of infrastructure that are being constructed. Two bases. One in Papa 20, one in X-Ray 20. Now, what's the significance of these two bases? Well, first of all, they didn't have bases in those areas, and these two bases provide, once they're complete, logistical support into Hydran space. One of the key things to note here is that these bases were just recently started construction, so they're not fully operational. As if what with our Obi-Wan, for example, premiering on Disney Plus just this past week, it's not a fully operational battle station just yet, and so it's under construction. But what are we missing on the map is the key. We have two new bases under construction, but there's two bases specifically that are missing. The YDK, owned by the Hydrans, that was in Whiskey 22 here, Whiskey 22, is no more. It's gone. There was also a Orion base in X-ray 22 that is also gone. 2 YDKs, which are the biggest, baddest, hardest base in the game, have been eliminated in one turn. Ouch. All right, let's take a look at the ships and see what's going on here. So there's a couple of interesting dynamics. Like I say, I'm looking at it for the first time just like you are, so let's take a look at things one at a time. First of all, we can see that there's a stack of ships and Truth Fleet. Let's pull up the ISC fleets and see what's going on. Incidentally, I will go over the EP and fleet cap counts as soon as we sort of resolve what's going on here in the border. But as this is sort of the lead, let's start with this. Okay, so Truth Fleet. We can see it's on the very bottom here. We have a YCC, a YCA, a total of 8 DDs, destroyers, a crippled destroyer and a crippled frigate, and two Marshal teams. So those are prime teams in the normal game. So there is a not insignificant force sitting here on this base station that is defending it under construction. In addition to that, you'll notice when I hover over that hex, of course, there's a tug in that hex building the base, but there's also a YPGB, a Y-era planetary ground base. Now, we can, in this game, you can deploy those one of them, on a resource, like you can deploy one on a colony. And the big advantage is, I mean, it's only a 1-2 unit, but it provides EW. Meaning that if another faction doesn't have EW, it provides an EW shift, which is just a tactical advantage in the resolution of a battle in a game. So strategic play, which brings about a tactical advantage. So very interesting. There's also a second Y tug in that hex. There's also another YDD. So there's a total of 9 destroyers, with a 10th being crippled, a frigate that's crippled, a CA and a CC, 2 tugs, 1 building, I'm assuming the other one providing extended supply, and then, of course, the fleet. Very interesting. Now, what else we got here? We got Third Fleet, Judge, Enforcement, Provider, Order, Integrity. Okay, so let's go through those named fleets, and then I'll get the numbered one in a second. So the ISC Integrity Fleet is a CA and a CL. Order Fleet is a CC and 4 YCLs. So 6 YCLs, okay. Providence. Oh, Providence has the Dreadnought, another CA. Looks like 5 CLs. 5 CLs, a commando cruiser, 2 DDs, and two prime teams. And that was Providence Fleet. Enforcement Fleet is just a bunch of CLs again. So 6. Oh, okay. So 6, 6, and 5. Right? So 17 total CLs. Oh my God. CLs in that fleet. Judgment Fleet has another DN. So there's 2 DNs, another CL, and a YDD. So not including the DDs, I'm counting 18 YCLs, a number of cruisers, 3, 4. 4 cruisers, at least, and 2 dreadnoughts. Wow, that is a very potent offensive fleet, without a doubt. Wow. And the big kicker for me, when I look at this, is and I'll pull up Third Fleet here in a second, I don't see any of the cripples. There was a big battle, and the battle would have resulted in cripples. Where are the cripples? Or were they just destroyed? Interesting. Interesting. All right, Third Fleet. ISC, Third Fleet. Oh, goodness, even more. So Third Fleet has another 5. So that's over 20. Oh, sorry, those are DDs, my mistake. So DDs. So that's 5 DDs and 2 CLs. So We're at 20 CLs in that hex, along with the cruisers, the two dreadnoughts, and a complement of destroyers. Jeez Louise, that is a really big fleet. That is a really big fleet with a lot of offensive firepower. That is a big, oh my God, big fleet. Okay. So we've established that the ISC have a big hammer, and it looks like they dropped it on not only the Orion, but the Hydran YDKs. Wow. Okay. So what's going on the Hydran side? So we have Behemoth, which is a YDN that is just a DN with a prime team and an escort frigate, and Damocles, which is another DN with the same thing. So these two ships are operating like exploration ships during a war. I'm very curious as to why that is. I mean, obviously opening up different angles of attack. It just seems like a strange use of ships at this point. Hydran Home Fleet. Let's see. Okay. Whoa, that's a big fleet too. That's quite a big fleet. Home Fleet. What do we got? Expeditionary Fleet. Hydran. Expeditionary Fleet. Okay. We'll put that right there. Boom, boom. Let's pull up first an iron because they're kind of in the way or like within reach. This is First Fleet. We'll put that up top. And Iron Fleet. Hydran. Metal Fleet's iron? Maybe? Here we go. Okay, we'll put that down here. My goodness, so many fleets. Okay, so first of all, let's talk with the ones in the back and the ones in the front. So Iron, which is the fleet that is closest to the capital, which, just as a reminder, the capital is currently 5 hexes away from the most forward deployed ISC fleet or ships. That is close. The Iron Fleet has a YDD and 2 vols, so nothing too significant. The First Fleet also has a DD and 2 vols. So let's just get rid of those right now so it's less noise on the page. So basically small fleets that are in the vicinity of base stations to be able to provide support for those base stations so they don't get sort of crippled and attacked by something like Orion. And then we have the Expeditionary Fleet and the Home Fleet. So let's look at Expeditionary Fleet first, which has a DN, 4 CCs, 6, 7, 8 vols. So not by any means the biggest, baddest fleet in the world, but they have, there's a reasonable fleet there, and specifically 2 tugs. One building a base, and the other one potentially, I'm going to guess, is going to be able to provide supply. So that's interesting. So they're putting those ships forward and then building bases with them. Interesting. Home Fleet has a bit of a bigger punch with the command cruisers. So we've got a DN titled Avalanche, and then a bunch of YCCs. And then on the other one, which is New Fleet, which is directly underneath that stack of ships, you've got 6 YCCs, 9 vols. So 9 vols and 6 YCCs. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, whoa, Jim's unloading a whole bunch in the chat. Let's go to the chat real quick just so we can go over what Jim's saying. Jim is, all right, let's start from the top. Start from the top. Jim, yeah, big bad fight, laugh out loud. 1 vol, yes, folks, that's all the damage I took beyond the YDK given up. Given up? Oh, wow. Was crippled, and that's all. And an Orion YCA and their YDK. Wow. Jim, 1 tug, 1 not moved properly. Okay. So this is the fleet that attacked him in the chat here. Wow. Okay, ISC forces, 2 YDNs, 2 YCCs, 20 YCAs. It can't be right. He doesn't have 20 YCAs. It must be 20. Oh, okay. Sorry. 2 YDNs, 1 YCC, 2 YCAs, 20 YCLs, 2 commando cruisers, 8 DDs, and 3 marshal teams against his YDK, 3 DNs, 10 CCs, 18 vols, and a triad team. Interesting. And those are all in W22. And you chose not to fight that battle, Jim. Very interesting. 1 crippled. That's all. No loss beyond the YDK. There's only 1 tug on XX23, which is where Expeditionary Fleet is there. Okay. And the other one is elsewhere. Okay. Interesting. So, big question out for Jim as I drink a little bit more coffee here. Caffeination. Why give up the YDK? I mean, it seemed like a perfect opportunity to have a pivotal battle because at some point it seems like there's going to have to be one. But why not have that pivotal battle now and push that? I'm curious. It's interesting that you chose to retreat without receiving any cripples, except for a vol. I'm not sure why you had a vol crippled. If you retreat, the base can cover your retreat. So I'm curious why that is. Movement orders had it moving to, looking at map, Victor 26. Okay. So anyways, very interesting, very interesting. So pivotal battle in that hex over the YDK, and the Hydran player chose to retreat as opposed to stand fight. Really curious as to why that is. I mean, don't get me wrong, 20 YCLs, you can do the math as to whether you're going to win that fight or not. The question is, what would there not have been an advantage in causing so much pain to the ISC player that they would have had to withdraw, I guess, is the question. It seemed like that would have been a valuable opportunity. I'm curious why that happened that way. Interesting. Oh, I know. You put the 1 vol with the YDK so you could control the BIR. That's probably why. Because if you don't have a ship there, you can't control the burr. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Wow. So interesting. Okay. Let's go back to the map real quick, and let's go over the other sort of pillar of strength here. So we have Justice Fleet and a Riemann Columbia Fleet, as well as a bunch of YFF. So let's just remind ourselves what's in Justice Fleet. Named echelons. Justice, where are you? Justice has a YCL and 3 DDs. So nothing too crazy. CL with a couple DDs and 4 YFFs, one of them with 1 additional cripple. There's the base that's being constructed with a tug and 2 FFs as escort. And then, of course, you've got Columbia Fleet. Let's really quick just tap into the Riemann. Where are you? Riemann Columbia. And Columbia Fleet is not nothing. It's 8 frigates, 2 destroyers, and 2 cruisers. So certainly a stop, like a plug in that hole, without a doubt. A nickel fleet, 2nd fleet, and 3rd fleet. Now, if memory serves, those were not necessarily big fleets from the Hydran side. So we had nickel, nickel, 2nd, and 3rd. So I'm assuming nickel is a shiny. Yeah. Hydran, shiny fleets. No? Okay. Hydran is should be in metal, no? Oh, nickel fleet is 1 frigate. I love the use of fleet boxes for 1 ship. Awesome. Okay. 2nd and 3rd. 2nd fleet. Hydran. Oh, come on now. Stop that. Hydran, 3rd fleet. Right? 3rd. Okay. Oh, dear. Stop that. Okay, so we have basically a bunch of frigates. 1, 2, 3, 4 frigates, a YCC, and a tug in that hex, along with the Carnarvon fleet. So nothing significant from the Hydran side, But the Carnivon's got a significant fleet there. That is their, it's Fox, is it? Yeah, Fox fleet. So Fox Skulk is 2 frigates, a drone bombardment destroyer, a commando cruiser, 2 drone bombardment cruisers, 2 YCAs with a prime team and a YCC. Okay. So effectively what it looks like here is we've got a bunch of exploration fleets, which is tungsten, iridium, xenon. 5th fleet, let's see what's in 5th fleet just because it's in the neighborhood. Again, 1 frigate, lovely. So a bunch of random frigates and a YCC, which could be brought together to form enough to be able to sort of balance out what's happening there in Oscar 21. And of course, we've got the Carnivon fleet. Okay. All right. So what we're seeing here is essentially the big battle that occurred with the loss of the 2 YDKs, a plug and play, if we'll call it this, in the sense of plugging the hole and continuing to like set yourself up for success, which is what the ISC is doing with the creation of that, or the building of that YBS. So they're creating infrastructure, which they don't currently have, but they're plugging the hole, which at this point they're effectively doing. It doesn't look as if the Hydrants can deploy a lot of ships to be able to sort of shift the balance there, but between the Remans and the ISC, they've effectively plugged that hole there. Based on the ships that are there, I don't see a reasonable way that the Hydrants and the Carnivons together will be able to push through that hole, unless they explore more and open up more hexes, and then just becomes more of a dynamic environment. And then, of course, you've got the significant punch on the side with the YDKs that got taken out. Okay, so let's do a quick little look into the chat because I can see Jim is continuing to unload on the chat here in a positive way. Movement orders had it moving to, looking at the map, okay. You have to fight 1 round, so 1 round was fought. YDK and 1 vol in lineup. You don't, so you have to fight 1 round, which is true, but you don't need to have any and all of your ships in the battle line to fight that 1 round. So, for example, you can withdraw before combat, and because, yeah, there's a bunch of different ways that could work out as far as sequence of events in a battle. Fundamentally, you don't have to put your ships in the battle line. You can have them in the hex, but you could have the base fighting that 1 round, and I guess the vol took the damage. Very strange. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So YDK and 1 vol in the lineup exactly. Burr was something. Jim, if the base in Expeditionary Fleet is just being built now, aren't both YDNs, Damocles, and Beam out of supply right now? So there is a base in Victor. Let's go right back just to address that question. There is a base right here in Victor 24. Now, the Hydrants have supply 4, meaning they can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They cannot, because they have ships in Home Fleet right here, they can run supply also through Whiskey 22. If Home Fleet was not here, then this stack of ships from the ISC would prevent supply coming through here. The reason why you wouldn't include the YDN in that same example is because they were in a Fog of War hex, and as per the sort of the rules around Fog of War, you can't if you're in a Fog of War hex, it limits what you can do. So yeah, basically that's so fundamentally they're not out of supply because there is a route of supply from this base in Victor 24 that allows them to be able to be supplied. Again, I'll just remove the ships out of the way. You know that they're right beside this blue base here in Uniform 21 and Victor 21, and you can see the bases. So this one isn't complete. This one is, and this is what's providing supply. Also, because they could offer supply through this funnel, they could also get supply from this base, even though it's crippled. It still provides supply. 1, 2, 3, 4. but Uniform 21 is specifically being supplied by this base in Victor 24. But it's a good question because supply and access to it is a big thing. Okay, let's bring it back here real quick. For supply range, YBS and Victor 24. Yep, fleet being built now. Or can you plane retreat and not withdraw before combat? You can. So, okay, so here's a question about the rules. Or Jim's asking a question about the rules. So A, you can withdraw before combat. When you withdraw before combat, effectively, you can remove half your ships, and or you can remove more than half your ships, but you got to leave a certain number of ships equal to the number of ships attacking, if it's over and above 50%. And because of the volume of ships that were attacking from the IC, that of course prevented that piece. So you'd have to leave at least 50% of your ships in the hex. But there's no real reason necessarily to do that because you don't have to put them all in the battle line. Because you can choose to only put one ship in the battle line, which is, for example, the base, and then with the frigate, for example, to control the BIR, they're fighting one round of battle and then they retreat. So, but all the other ships can retreat, and they'd be covered by the base, if that makes sense. So basically, the base can fight the battle for you. It just depends on how much offensive firepower can be generated by the attacker's battle line, and can that line completely annihilate what you've got in your first battle line. Which, when it comes to a YDK, I mean, that's really tough to take out. That's 16, and then another 8, so it's 32 points of no math, Tony. 24 points of damage that you would have to inflict in one turn to be able to destroy that base, and yeah, that's a lot. So yeah, very interesting, very interesting. Okay, so sequence of events here, folks. We're already half an hour in, and we're just looking at the first battle. So what we're going to do is I'll go back to the map. We're going to go over the EP. We're going to go over fleet cap. We're going to do a quick round the clock to be able to check in with every empire, see what's going on. We're going to talk about that GW ship that showed up for the Lyrans. We're going to see an event that's occurred, or sort of something new that's happening for the Tholians. We'll do around the clock, and then we're going to talk about. We're going to do that quickly, though, so that we can spend more time talking about the changing state of play geopolitically, so galactic politically. You know, from a political standpoint, as far as the power dynamics that are changing in this game, and what that tells us going forward. Deal? All right. So let's jump into the map. And I will move my head to the other side just so that we can show these numbers a little bit easier. Move this over. There we go. Okay. Let's start with EP. Boom. I don't know why I always have trouble finding it when I look. There we go. EP. All right, we're going to put EP right beside my head, and then we're going to pull up fleet cap right away, and then put that right beside me as well. Whenever it decides to populate, there we go. We'll just expand that ever so slightly. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Carnivon. Are at 44. Boom, boom. No change from last turn, but they're still doing well. The Federation have bumped up a little bit. They are at 39 EP. The Gorn have popped 40 with 41. Very interesting. The Hydrons are at 41.5. Still looking good as far as their total EP. The ISC have fallen to 36.5. Now, the reason why that number has changed is because the ISC faction over in Tholian space got absorbed or brought into the Empire. So the true number is now being revealed. 36.5 is what the IC is at. The Klingons are at 44. I guess the Carnivon, they must have... so the Carnivon's obviously gained a couple EP or something because they've gone up in EP. The Klingons remain at 44. The Lyrans are at 38.5. The Remans 39.5. Romulans 37 even. And the new king of the hill when it comes to the economy, as forecast for so long by yours truly, the Tholians are now at a towering 47. Wow. Okay, let's take a pause and look at the fleet cap. Going to the Carnivon, they have 65 ships, a slight increase from last time. They have now 164 to 292 split. The Federation at 44, interesting number. 44 keeps showing up. 44 ships with a 116-190 split. Interesting that they are now creeping forward in their sort of building out their fleet. I wonder what that might telegraph, if anything. The Gorn are at 37 ships with a 77-156 split. Nothing really changing there. I think that's one more ship, but it might have been something small based on the numbers. The Hydrons, 73 ship equivalents at 174-290. Wow, they're getting close to 200. It's going to be interesting. The ISC, now this is the true number, again, for fleet cap, because there's no other faction polluting their numbers. 85 ship equivalents, so they are over 10 ship equivalents above the Hydrons. They have a 256. Let's let that sit in there for a second. 256 attack factor and 372. Klingons at 54, no change there with a 138, 218. The Lyrans at 56 ship equivalents at 126, 255. Wow. Wow. Okay. The Remans, oh my God, 88. So, oh my God, 88 ship equivalents with a 252, 325. So let's just take a pause there for 1 second. There is one alliance in the game, which is the Remans and the ISC. Both of those factions have the largest fleet if it was just them, either 85 or 88 respectively. Both of those factions have over 250 attack factors in their fleets and over 300 in defense factor. Either one of them is a giant hammer. Both of them together is like an atomic bomb. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The Romulans are at 47 ship equivalents with 126, 204, and the Tholians improving their number of ships at 49, still with a 72, 189. So, wow. Very, very interesting. Okay, let's take a second. We're going to go counterclockwise today, starting with the Lyrans and working our way down and around the clock, coming back to the Carnivons at the very end. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the Lyrans. The Lyrans, nothing too exciting happening on their border with the Remans, at least. But what we can do, or what we can see, is that they are polishing off the exploration in their top corner here. You can see that there's only about 6 hexes left. They've got an exploration small freighter and cruiser continuing to polish off those 6 hexes, which is good. The remainder of their exploratory fleet is down here, continuing to push the wedge, so to speak, getting into the sort of the pool in the center, which is very interesting. We have a commercial convoy going back and forth between the Lyrans and the Federation, again, speaking to their play nice attitude, which is very nice, very good. Again, we have nothing too much exciting there. As we saw with the numbers, no big change on the Lyran fleet numbers, no big change in the total number of ships. But we can see that they have essentially focused or pivoting towards exploration focus. Let's take away the ships real quick, and we can see no new bases being built. We can see that, of course, they did conquer that Paravian planet, but that was a couple turns ago now. We can see the distribution of bases in such a way to facilitate exploration. One thing to note, you will see that this is their point of supply here. 1, 2, 3, 4. It would seem as though they have exploration. They have supply 4, unless there's a tug here. Oh, there is a tug. Okay, interesting. So here's the question. Is this tug pre-positioned to be able to build a base, which makes sense to me, or is it providing supply? Question. If this, which is we'll call it a mini tug, it's like a theater transport. This ship can do a supply mission, but the problem is with only one ship, it only does it like in the hex. You'd need, it's supply 4, so it's 1/3 of supply 4. So I guess rounding up, it would provide 1 hex of supply. If it was maybe in this hex, it could provide supply. So the question mark is supply 4 for the Lyrans, or is this tug providing extended supply? It could be either or. We'll have to see. The The Lyrans are big on using convoys and various other things for extended supply, so we'll have to see how that works out. But it could be that that's what's going on there. Quick question from Chuck is, did Jim, did the monster kill one of your resources? I don't know. I didn't see that. We'll have to go back and check that out as we work our way around the clock. All right. So, Chuck, as we are going over your faction here, anything else you want to draw attention to? I am looking for the W or the GW era cruiser, and I don't see it. Did you attack it? Did it go somewhere? What can you tell us about that mysterious GW cruiser? I'll let you throw that in the comments as we scroll down and look into the Federation's turn. All right. Let's take away the ships real quick so we can see what's going on. Nothing significant changing as far as base building or anything like that, so no big changes there. We can see that if we bring back the ships, they did go up in EP, so where did they get that EP gain? Not exactly sure. Maybe, yeah, I don't know where. There's no ship that's discovered a new resource. So where did they get the EP gain? I'll be curious to know that from Bill. So they went up to 39. Maybe, no. Yeah, I'm curious to know where that EP gain came from. Let's just do a quick. They've got a happy plus, but that's not going to change the economic outcome of that. No other planets. Yeah, I'd be really curious. So Bill Linton is the player for the Federation. I'd be curious to know, Bill, if you end up watching this, what is it that upped your econ this turn? Very, very interesting to know. What we can see, though, the continued exploration to the center. All these continued cruisers with prime teams moving to the east. Interesting to see that this is an interesting play. So the Federation has moved a cruiser onto the Hex with the Kzinti faction. They are currently unhappy with the Federation, and I'm wondering if that's going to lead to a war. I would argue that's probably a good play for the Federation. A, to boost their economy. B, to be able to attack and conquer this faction, pump out some more ships, all sorts of good reasons why you would go to limited war to deal with them. That would be an advantage. Also, what we can see is that there's a monster in the middle of Federation space, and it looks like possibly this YCA bumped into it and had to retreat. So what's particularly interesting is that monster is right next to that base, which theoretically it could move one hex because it'll move first and it could attack that base. Let's just take a quick look at Fed 6 fleet, which is the fleet that's there. Oh, well, look at that. We've got 3 YCAs, a YDD, and 5 YFFs. So not an insignificant fleet. I have a feeling that even if that monster does show up on that base, that fleet's going to be more than enough to be able to take care of it. But we'll see. These monsters can have all sorts of cool, neat, and troubling abilities that can sort of throw a wrench in your plans depending on who you are and what's going on. Sniff, sniff. All right. Again, not too much else happening on the Federation side. We can see the continuing building out of the base network along the border with the Tholians, along the border with the Lyrans, the push to the center, and of course, there is still this exploration to the west. Large exploration freighter here, home fleet positioning itself over the... interesting that you do that because that fleet is currently out of supply. So once one of these hexes is explored, then they'll be in supply. But as of right now, they are out of supply. So, yeah, interesting. If I'm the ISC, I could send a fleet. I could send something through this. Well, they'd be out of supply as well. It's interesting. I guess if they're both out of supply, it's an equal battle. So yeah, interesting choice. What else we got here? We got 7 Fleet, which is over that wormhole with the Klingons. So let's do a quick. I imagine nothing's changed there. 7 Fleet. Yep. 5 frigates and a cruiser. No big deal. And again, continuing to explore. A big thing to note is that the colony still not part of the. It's a Carnarvon. Yeah, so that's a Carnarvon colony. So that instead of the Carnarvon being 44, they're 43. Still being troublesome and not joining the Federation. We've got the Kzinti faction here, which is independent, and then, of course, the Kzinti faction over here, which is unhappy. Two things to note. One, that's a minor planet. This is a medium planet. I mentioned that before. That really gives the Federation some opportunity to grow economically. If you think about it, that is a 4 and 4. That's a total of 8 EP that they could add to their economy if they, for example, if tomorrow, next turn, they all went into their economy, that would put them at 47, which would be matching the Tholians by example. Very interesting to see that. Of course, if they conquer them and devastate those planets, it won't be that right away, but nonetheless, interesting to see. All right, let's look at the Tholians real quick. Let's take away the bases and the ships for a sec so we can see that this planet, which is devastated, is a potential 2, but it's only 1. So in relatively short order, in about maybe 6 turns, this planet will be producing 2, not 1. So the Tholians will go up to 48. Interesting to note. We can see that they brought in the ISC planet, as I mentioned before, so it's now part of their empire. And the Kzinti planet down here, still unfriendly. Let's bring back bases. And we can see the base network for the Tholians is still quite robust. Building another base station, of course, over this wormhole here. Let's bring back the ships, and we can see continued exploration with cruisers and prime teams here. Large exploration freighters here with escorts. 1, 2, 3. So they're really pushing to the center, the Tholians, that is. Small exploration freighters working to the west, 1, 2, and 3. And of course, we've got sort of their distribution of ships and fleets. They've still got Third Fleet, which is Tholians, Third Fleet, which is, wow, that's not a lot of ships. Now we know, of course, the Tholians have one of the smallest fleets in the game, and I'm sure they're not thinking that the Hydrans are going to launch an attack on them right now because the Hydrans have other things that they have to deal with. But very interesting to see. Again, the Tholians are, I don't want to say scary because they don't have anything to threaten you with yet. I just know what's coming over the horizon, and there's going to be a significant pain train that's going to come unless something changes. And unfortunately, because of the neighbors that the Tholians have, which is the Federation to the north, which are being very nice to them, the Gorn to the bottom, which, like the Tholians, have really crappy ships in this era, there's not going to be a big fight there. It doesn't seem that way. So the Tholians are in a nice, cozy little nook, and they are going to continue to grow and be a problem later. All right, let's see. We've got the Gorn. Let's take away their ships and bases for a sec. So we can see the Gorn still unhappy here. Nairobi, or not, K-Rob? K-Rob is the name of that planet. And in about, looks like in 4 or 5 turns, that planet will be non-devastated. So they'll get another +1 there. We can see the distribution of resources and stuff, nothing too crazy. Let's bring back the bases there. So bases and ships, we can see that their network of base building is getting a little patchy. I mean, they were doing a good job of building out a robust network. You can see that they're upgrading this to a YDK. Smart move, especially over a wormhole. And of course, on the border with the Tholians, it's going to be interesting to see if that comes into play as a point of conflict or something else. We'll see how that works out. But between that and sort of the lack of ships currently exploring, you only have so much money, right? You can only do so much. But we've got exploration ships sort of ready and able to sort of get out here and do some exploration. With this colony here, they've got at least a 1, 2, 3 reach, so they could go here, here, here. Well, let's show you their supply reach. Where's their supply? Supply menu. Gorn. And we set supply at 3. So you can see based on the coloration here, the reach that they have when it comes to supply. So all these hexes along here are hexes that they could explore. So they've got lots that they can check out. They just need to sort of double down their efforts to do that exploration, which is going to be challenging. Again, just number of ships that we're going to be building and what you have available, sort of a challenge. So we'll see how that goes as it goes forward. The Romulans are starting to look like a pillar. They're doing such a good job at exploration. They're looking less blobby and more up and down. So they're very interesting. You can see that the exploration in the bottom corner here continue to work very well. Let's take away the ships. They've completed building this base, so they have extended reach now. Let's assume 3, although I expect they probably have 4. 1, 2, 3. They've got lots of reach to be able to go right up to the border here, which is good. As we go north, you can see that they are continuing to push the exploration. And let's just, for supply's sake, let's show the Romulan supply. And this is still set at 3. So you can see the reach that they currently have. They got lots of ships that they can continue to explore. These FBs are their tugs. So whether this one's building a base, which is complete, this one will probably start building a base soon to fill this gap, and so on and so forth. So they'll continue to build and move their exploration forward in that respect. So, incidentally, for all of you watching, is this useful to show the supply reach and how they're sort of working into their supply for exploration? You let me know in the comments if that's something that you want to keep seeing as we go forward. So nothing too crazy here. We can see that, still got the vulture there. You've got 2nd Legion here. I imagine nothing's really changed there. 2nd Legion, yeah, nothing's changed. Okay, so all good. Big thing for the Romulans, the R&D team has arrived at this base station. The Klingon R&D team is here. They are also on their way. They will be there next turn, and then they'll do the swap, and then they'll go back in their respective directions back to the various capitals, and good things will happen. So that's good. Okay, so let's go into the Klingon turn. As you can see, the swarm of cruisers is out and about trying to explore and find new things. I believe that this D4C is in the wrong location. I think it should be here because it was picking up a prime team, which is currently embarked. So I think it's a typo. It should be right here on this base here. But the reason why the prime team with the cruiser just increases its opportunity to be able to explore, so that's why that's going on there, and we'll continue to push the exploration piece. You can see the D4E is successfully explored this hex right here, sort of connecting the bottom row here, and the intent is to... But boom, ladies and gentlemen, the Juggernauts. Obviously, I need a little bit of caffeine. Thank you. Hoorah! All right, energy. It's, what is it? Dating myself, I think. Would it be like the Power Rangers or... whatever it is. Anyways, powering up Super Mario style. Thank you very much for the coffee donation, Juggernauts. Appreciate your support. Thank you. So we can see here we've got the opening up of the bottom of the map here, just connecting the supply, and we're going to blow out this this fog of war area, and then of course work our way north and south and work that out. So you can see the swarm of cruisers is working towards that as we're going forward here. So that's what's happening there. You can see that there's, again, this exploration of ships up and down. We got a couple of tugs sort of pre-positioned for exploration. As I mentioned before, these unfortunately they're crippled, but these E2s are heading over here to get repaired and then sort of be security for this this planet here, and so on and so forth. Nothing too crazy on the Klingon side. Again, we're on our 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life and civilizations, and to crush, subjugate, and dominate all those new factions as we find them. So unfortunately, the exploration isn't really paying off for us right now. So we're not really discovering much, although we're trying to really push that exploration. Not just a problem that we're having as the Klingons, the Romulans are experiencing the same thing. So it is what it is. But we'll keep pushing the exploration piece as we move further out. Hopefully, good results. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Moving up to the Carnivon, let me move my head to the other side just so you can effectively see what's going on. We can see the Carnivons. The destroyer is working its way towards the center. Wolfpack, let's just take a quick look at Wolfpack. Carnivon. Wolfpack. Bam. All right, nothing too much has changed there. Same number of 3, 3, and 1. We have a cruiser bombardment ship here as well. Interesting to note that Denfleet is not here. Is Denfleet there? No, Denfleet's moved up here, which is interesting. Let's just take a quick look at Carnarvon Denfleet. Did they do anything different to Denfleet? Nope. It's pretty much the same. Interesting, though, that it's moved up here and not down here. Yeah, very strange. I mean, I'm cool with it. I'm just interested to see that they're moving north. Maybe there's, I don't know. Oh, I see. They've moved Denfleet up to be able to stomp this this Orion base. That's what's going on there. So Denfleet's going to go stomp an Orion base, and they'll be back in. They'll be back in a couple minutes. We'll see how that goes. So very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Yeah, no big deal. Okay, so they're moving up. Good things are happening. The Carnarvons. Let's see what else we got here. We got. Coyote. What's going on with Coyote? Of course, I always spend a little bit more time with the Carnarvons because they're my neighbors. And I'm always sort of interested. Now they did have a dreadnought. I guess it moved up. I don't know. They had another dreadnought, and I thought that they. Oh, look at that! I was looking for it, and it's right there. YDN, boom. Whiskey 34 heading north. Looks like he's continuing to send ships. Interesting. To the front with the ISC. So this is really interesting. Let's focus on the Carnarvon and their support of the Hydrans. So we can see here that it seems as though they're continuing to send more and more ships up this way. You can see that the number of ships in their various waypoints is increasing, as in, like, you got ships here, ships here, ships here. They finished building this base. I feel like they're going to build maybe a base here, or at least they're providing extended supply. And they're sending bigger, badder ships up to the north. So very interesting to see sort of that evolution and how that's going. We can, of course, see the bug, which is here, which is that monster. Nothing too crazy. I mean, it's currently hovering over a fog of war hex right here, but it is sort of creeping closer towards the border with the Carnarvon. I'll be curious and interested to see if it continues down that way and if it's maybe attracted to the wormhole, or I don't know. We'll see. Argon fleet, which is an exploration fleet from the Hydrans, continuing to sort of push towards this wormhole. We're here with the Gorn, and then. Oh yeah, you can't quite see that. Let's just move that over. So you can see there's a wormhole right here, Argon, Cobalt, and New Fleet over in the corner here. Again, just doing exploration. Nothing too crazy. So, and then we're back to the Hydrans. The real sort of interaction between the Carnarvon and the Hydrans is this sort of, we'll call it the Silk Road. Maybe we'll call it something else. The Nickel Road, since it's going to Nickel Fleet. But either way, the path of a supply here, it would seem as though the Carnarvon are going to build out a supply network that's going to facilitate their ability to fight the battles with the Hydrans. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this is going to go forward. Yeah. Okay. Last, we're going to finish off with the Remans here. Well, I guess we went over the Hydrans and the ISC. We didn't really talk about what else is happening with the ISC. Nothing too much extra is happening with the ISC. We can see that Second Fleet, for example, where do we got? ISC, Second Fleet. Nothing there. 1 YCL. We got a couple of, basically all his ships were on the front line with the, with the Hydrans. We have, of course, a base being built here by the Remans to facilitate supply down south. And that's pretty much it. The Remans themselves, they've got their YDK here. Triton Fleet, commanded by Bruce Vane, Interesting. All right, let's look at Triton Fleet. Oh my God. So cruiser 8? Is it 6? 6? 6. 6. Yes. Okay, 6 destroyers. My eyes are going blurry. 6 destroyers, two frigates, making their way down south. Of course, more tugs, probably to facilitate more base building to be able to get themselves down there. We can see continued exploration. They have conquered that colony, which was a Paravian colony. It is now a Riemann colony. Very nice. Very good to see. But once again, more monsters in Riemann space. Good to know that the Riemanns have Cerberus fleet right there, which is perfectly and adequately equipped to be able to stomp that monster. So that's good. And of course, they've got other fleets in the area too. I believe it was New Fleet that was the one that was super crippled and that they needed to repair. Yep. And they are slowly repairing it, as we can see here. 7 of the frigates slowly being repaired. So yeah, good news. As far as the Riemanns go, they've got a couple of surprises, but they've got lots of assets, ships to be able to deal with it. So no harm, no foul there. I'll be interested to know how big and bad that monster is when that battle occurs. So it'll be very interesting. And of course, you know, we've got efforts here to try and make everybody happy, which is always entertaining from the Riemann side. Look at that. I didn't realize that planet, I want to say it's Transylvania, but it's not Transylvania. It's Transylvania. Anyways, Transylvania might have started off as a minor planet. It is now a medium planet. Very interesting to see. So some planetary growth there. Very, very interesting. Hey, speaking of which, why haven't my planets grown, GM? Okay, so that's the round the clock. Let's take a quick moment to jump back into the chat. Oh my God, look at all this. Okay, lots of chat. Let's talk about the chat real quick, and then we're going to talk about the changing state of play in the geopolitics of New Worlds. Okay, let's see here. Chuck says, killed it, got some tech, tried talking to it. Okay, so what he's referring to there is that there was a GW era war cruiser that showed up, war destroyer, ship anyway, that showed up in his space. And as Chuck is saying, he tried to talk to it. There was a little bit of a role-playing exchange where he was moving towards trying to engage it. And so tried to engage with it. Obviously, it didn't work out, and so he had to destroy it. Now, he destroyed it, got a little bit of a tech boost because it's GW tech. So that advanced technology, when you fight it, you get like a perk. This happens not only with players from the player faction, if I had GW tech, or if you come across super advanced technology, but also if you were engaging, for example, the Juggernauts, and the first time you engage the Juggernauts, you're going to get that same kind of tech boost. Think of it like when the Federation engaged the Borg in, I think it was the end of season 2, or maybe it was 3. So when they engaged the Borg, they learned a whole bunch from that encounter, and they started, at least in the narrative of TNG, started developing a bunch of technologies to be like anti-Borg technology, different tactics and techniques as far as phaser technology and shield technology and this and that and whatever. So very interesting to see sort of as that evolved. Bill, Constable Fleet for Fed Kazinti has a YDN. Constable Fleet. Let's take a quick look at what he's talking about. Constable Fleet. What are you talking about? Okay, let's... Okay, I'm going to go back to the map here real quick. My head's kind of in the way, but the fleet we're talking about is right here. And the Kazinti Constable Fleet is here. And so this is what Jim's talking about. They have this is such a big fleet. They have a YDN, a strike cruiser, a light cruiser, 2 drone bombardment frigates, and 3 or 4? Looks like 4. 4 frigates, and a YDK. So, and 2 planetary ground bases. Hard target is all I have to say. Hard target. Even if the Federation got all their ships together to attack that target, it would still be a brutal battle based on the number of ships that they currently have. So I don't know if they're trying to pick a fight, because if they pick a fight, we'll have to see what happens. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the GM. Daniel is back in the house. Greeting, Earthlings. And then Eugene. Eugene's got to take off. Oh, bye the bye. Hi, Eugene. Okay, there we go. Eugene. There was a line of Klingons trying to uncover a row of fogged hexes. Why are they still fogged? Was it related to the bad dice roll that was mentioned in last week's preview? Yes, and yes. So whenever we do exploration, it's not like an automatic discovery. Obviously, you've seen multiple ships on various fog of war hexes, and they're not uncovering them. So yes. Every time you engage a fog of war hex, there is a roll. Depending on the size of the ship, there's a benefit. The amount of technology or the tech you're in. In this game, for example, and it's particular to this game versus the new game that we're developing. So in this game, whatever level of tech you're at is the bonus that's applied. So for example, if you're early era tech, W or Y, there's a penalty applied to your ability to explore hexes. I think it's -1. I'd have to go check. So there's a penalty applied to that. Once you get M-Tech, those penalties are removed. When you have a prime team, it's a +1. These are all on a D6, by the way. So it's a D6 roll to be able to discover things. The size of the ship gives you a negative unless it's a size class 2, I think, is a 0 penalty. And so basically a cruiser with a prime team has like a 30% chance to uncover things. It's like a 1 or 2 on 1d6. An exploration cruiser with a prime team has a 4 out of 6 chance, I think. And things like that. There's basically a -2 penalty if you have early era tech. And then as soon as you discover M era tech, then that penalty goes away. And basically any exploration cruiser or exploration ship, not the freighters, but just the cruisers or whatever your survey ship is in your faction, with a prime team will automatically uncover a fog of war hex every time. So, yeah, that's how that works. So basically, small exploration freighters have a 30% chance. I think it's a 30% chance to uncover or discover hexes. A cruiser with a prime team has the same. Cruiser without a prime team, I think, has a 1 in 6 chance or something like that. So, I mean, the numbers are not in my favor, but it's better than nothing. So I'm just trying to play the numbers as best I can. So we'll just see how that works. After all, they were just sitting there doing nothing, so I might as well use them in some way, productive way, to be able to sort of up my exploration as much as possible. Bill, bad dice rolls bite us all. Daniel is a slave to the dice. True, fact. Denfleet backed away to keep their distance from the Klingon E1 legendary captain. Damn right. Show some respect to my E1 captain. Just kind of walking up there all balls and all brash. Telling those wolves to back down. I totally agree. I'm down with that interpretation of events. Not that they're looking to stomp some pirates. Not at all. We'll see. Bill says, pain train when the duplicitous Carnivons turn on the poor, helpless Hydrants. Yeah, it's looking rough. I think if the Carnivons stay true to their course of action and supporting the Hydrants, it'll be good. I think based on the way things currently are, I think the Carnivons helping the Hydrants can stave off the ISC assault. It's just going to be interesting to see how that kind of walks forward. But certainly right now there is an interesting dynamic that's going on there, but we'll talk about that in a sec. Juggernauts give a 1d6 to each primary tech branch. Yep. Ream and Fleet on the border with the Hydrants as well. Yep. I talked about that. Jim, Bill has had a name change, apparently. Welcome to the Gym Club. Bill has had a name change. Not sure why. Patriarchs has a tug. There we are. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about the changing state of play in the game. The thumbnail for this video shows a domino falling. And the idea there is that was the fall of the YDK on the border with the ISC the beginning or first step into a series of consequences, falling dominoes, that will lead to the Hydran player losing their fight with the ISC? I have played many games where there are individuals, players, who once something critical happens, like if you're playing Risk, for example, and one of the classic things about Risk is you sort of barricade yourself in Australia, by example, or you try and conquer North America, or whatever the case is, right? So I've seen players that they suffer a defeat, like, for example, their continent in Risk. They lose a country in that continent. And I've seen players who just give up. They just kind of like, whether their game is tainted, they feel like they have no chance to win. They feel it's hopeless, whatever the case is. I understand the you want to be able to win, and when you see your ability to win sort of being taken away from you, it defeats you. It takes away your motivation. But maybe this is just my own personal attitude. I'm like a pirate with a knife in between his teeth. And in war games like this, I may be losing, but God, I'm going to cut you on the way down. I'm going to slice and dice, and I'm going to fight every last bit that I can to make your life a pain. And I'm stubborn in that way, and then I never give up. Now, not everyone's like me, but in a game like this, in my very first game, for example, I had my homeworld sacked. And as a consequence of it being sacked, I lost my shipyards and everything else. And so, like, you spend like huge portions of your income to be able to build those slipways to be able to pump out ships. I had my homeworld crippled or like devastated, and all that infrastructure taken out. And so I could have given up at that point and been like, "Oh my God, it's the end of the game. I'm toast." But I came back. Not only did I come back in that game, but I was one of the dominant players until I made a critical error, and another player, ironically the same one who sacked my capital, came in and took me out. But I didn't give up. Even after I got sacked, I still tried to like run off into the fog of war hexes and sort of like try and find a way to come back. Maybe you never come back as one of the major players in that same, like you're not game-changing things, but you can be a pain in someone, a thorn in someone's side. So what's going on here is not that. What's going on here with the ISC or the Hydrans losing their YDK is not that. The Hydrans still have a massive fleet. The ISC still have a reach problem with it when it comes to their supply. The Hydrans have a lot of cards still tucked in. They have a lot of cards still left to play, and a less mature player in the sense of the ability to deal with hardship would crumble under such pressure, would back away in the face of such an onslaught, would be fearful of the overwhelming attack that the ISC is presenting. But I would argue that not only can the Hydrans turn the tables on the ISC, not only can they catch them in an out-of-supply, overextended environment and therefore cripple a bunch of their ships and cause such a significant amount of damage that will cause them to fall back, it is by no means the end of the game. Not only that, but we are fast approaching a period of time in the game where if you had been heavily investing in MTech, and I'm not saying the Hydrans have or the IC have or anybody else, but I'm just saying if they had been, whether it's any faction on the map, but certainly any of the 4 factions currently in the war, if any one of those factions had been heavily investing in tech, MTech is coming soon, like in the next couple of turns most likely. MTech ships, once you can build them, provide distinct advantages. One, those ships are bigger, badder, and harder. By example, we can look at the YCA for the Federation is a 4 attack, 6 defense ship. In the M era, that same ship is a 7-8 ship. 7 attack, 8 defense. So almost 50% increase in offensive firepower, 25% increase in defensive capability, and from a strategic perspective, they can move 6, not 4, which means they can outmaneuver Y-era ships. So the introduction of MTech is going to be big in that way, because not only are the smaller ships like the frigate, which I think is a 4-5, or maybe it's a straight 4, I'm not sure, but if it's a 4-5, that's the equivalent of a cruiser in the Y-era. So when those M ships get introduced, there's going to be a dramatic shift in what happens. Because if you can deploy a frigate, and in this game, frigates and destroyers, you can have 3 slipways of each. You can build out of those slipways 1 ship each slipway per turn, which means if I can build frigates, M-era frigates, I can build 3 of them per turn at the same offensive firepower as a Y-era cruiser, which can only be built once per turn. Does that mean that the day you get MTech, the scales are going to tilt in your direction? No. But what it does mean is that there is a distinct advantage that you will be able to then leverage, and the tide will turn. There is an ebb and flow to these battles, to these wars, and I believe that currently the Hydrans are on the receiving end of a flood, but that tide will turn again and will go back against the ISC and the Remans. The question is timing of that whenever it happens, and what can the ISC and the Remans do in the time that they have? Right now, there's no doubt that they have the advantage. How are they going to press it? How are they going to take advantage of it? How are they going to push that ball forward? In the same context, how are the Hydrans and the Carnivons going to mitigate, limit their advance? And are they going to be able to cause any sort of damage against them in one way or another? We shall see. Time will tell. But it is by no means the end of the game for any of those players. Even if the Carnivons decide to backstab the Hydrans, that would be vicious and brutal, and it would really cripple the Hydrans. But assuming that they're going to be loyal partners in fighting the ISC and the Remans, which, to be fair, from the Carnivon perspective, if the ISC were to take out the Hydrans and take over Hydran space, that puts the Carnivons at a distinct disadvantage. It is in the strategic interest of the Carnivons to support the Hydrans and keep them there. So, if that's the case, I think there's a lot of potential for the Carnivon-Hydran combo to be able to move that ball or turn the tide and push back. Key things for them to be successful, essentially the Hydrans need to fortify. Hydrans need to fortify and buy time. They need to give themselves space and time to be able to build out YDKs and other kind of infrastructure to be able to be a harder target to take. They have the advantage of a lot of their resources being well behind where their homeworld is, and a homeworld capital attack is a very difficult thing to do. So fortify your homeworld, fortify the area around your homeworld, and make that a harder target to take. Also, the Carnivons need to build out that supply network to be able to better get access to opening up the band or the assault against the Remans and the IC. The Remans are doing the same thing right now. It's a longer road for the Carnivons to get there, but if they can build a supply network into Hydran space, then they don't have to be limited by how many ships they can support as homeless ships or support as expeditionary fleets. They can just send all their ships down that highway and get into fighting the war with the Remans and the ISC. Yes, it looks intimidating based on the ships that you got, but I think that there is a lot of potential for there to be another flip of the script, so to speak. The tide will turn again. It's just a matter of sorting this out. Also, it's not just about war. It's not just about the battles that you fight. It's about the tactics that you employ. while I think the Lyrans are very unlikely to support the Hydrans in any way, have the Hydrans and the Carnivons reached out to the Lyrans? It's probably a wasted cause. The Lyrans have already said how much they dislike the Carnivons and the Hydrans, but is there any way that they could bring them on side? Is there any way that they could bring them into the fold and try and help them maybe attack the Remans or distract them in some way, shape, or form? Could the Tholians help in some way? Could the Federation? Do the Tholians even want to, do they want to go through their wormhole and cause trouble for the Hydrans? Is this an opportunity for everyone to sort of pile on the Hydrans? I don't know. There's so much interesting stuff there. Let me go down one sort of thought experiment here before I go back into the chat. Let's assume for 1 second the Hydrans fall. If the ISC, if I look at the map and I'm just going to take away all bases and stuff, and I just look at what the ISC could take. If the ISC take all the resources, and maybe I'll show you my map so we're talking about the same thing. If the ISC take everything from the star and maybe this little planet north, and the Carnivons try and take everything south, what does that do? The ISC become because it's a capital system, it's got a minor planet, it's got a colony. Let's just take a look what the Hydran homeworld has. Hydran capital. Let's move this over here. So if you took the Hydran capital, you would get a major planet. It wouldn't be your homeworld. It would just be a major planet. So it's 5 EP, 3 and 2. So there's a total of 10 EP in that one hex. 10 EP. So you take 10 EP plus 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17 EP. So you take 17 EP and you add that to their 36. So 46 and 53. So that makes them a 53 economy. If you were to do that to the Carnivon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. So it'd be another 11 EP for the Carnivon. The Carnivon would be 54. So those two factions, ISC and the Carnivons, would be head and shoulders economically above everybody else. They would be very, very comparable to each other. And they would own big swaths of territory. There would also be, if that was the case, the ISC, granted, with the alliance with the Remans, I don't think there would be a big threat there. But then what would happen between the ISC and the Carnivons? What would happen with the ISC and the other factions is everyone's pushing towards the center. What kind of friction would that create? How would that balance against the Tholians? How would that balance against the Romulans, the Klingons, the Gorn, the Lyrans? Whenever one faction, with the 10 factions that we have in the game, there's balance. There's balance in the sense of the amount of territory you have on the map, the size of your economy relative to everybody else. There's balance. When you start seeing other players getting taken out, there's a sense of imbalance that starts to get introduced. And much like in the real world, you'll have major powers, superpowers, you might say, come to the light. And there becomes a sort of a potential conflict there. So one thing that I would mention too, if I'm the Carnivon player and I look at that 11 odd resources that I can grab potentially, not so fast. Because if I all of a sudden become the biggest, baddest economy, 54, let's say, in this game, how is that going to impact my neighbors? How are the Klingons going to respond? How are the ISC going to respond? How are the Tholians going to respond? Are you opening yourself up for conflict in a way that would be disadvantageous for you? Would it not be better to maybe just eke out a little bit and leave the Hydrans alive? Or would it be better to help the Hydrans push back the ISC? If I'm the Carnivons, I believe a strong Hydran neighbor is of advantage to me. If I'm the ISC, I want to try and quickly go in and take out and grab as much Hydran territory as possible, and then have the Remans come through the back end and maybe do some damage as well. Maybe there's a splitting up of the resources so that the Remans can get some and the ISC can get some, and they move forward to be able to sort of attack the Carnivon. I don't know. That wormhole you see here this November, that is the wormhole with the Tholians. Here's a question for you. Where are the Tholians at with wormhole tech? If they go through that wormhole and then take this planet as a supply point, what's that going to mean? If they have supply 4, by example, because there's a couple of factions that have supply 4, and they have the ability to provide supply through a wormhole, then they can reach 3 hexes through the wormhole, because there's going through the wormholes 1 hex, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 resources within proximity of that wormhole plus the planet. If I'm the Tholians, it's potentially worth it to send ships through, especially since once you take it, the Tholians are really hard to get off of a target. So let me go back to the bigger picture. Balance. If the Hydrans were to fall, it would cause a degree of imbalance in the game, and other factions would move to create more balance. Tholians potentially going through wormholes, depending on their technology, to be able to grab resources. Tholians are at 47 now. If they grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if they were able to grab 9 EP, approximately, then that puts them at 56. Then the ISC would come through potentially and grab some Hydran territory. Maybe the Carnivons do the same. And they'd all be in the 50s. The positioning of those factions, the Tholians would be able to create a blockade or like a line, and they'd be able to take out the middle. There's all sorts of interesting dynamics that happen there. How is that going to increase the friction with your neighbors in your relative power to others? We've seen that play out in the real world. And just look at the Cold War. The Cold War balance was about the Warsaw Pact against NATO and the balance between them, right? And that could essentially happen here, except instead of a two-party juxtaposition or bipolar, you would have a 3-way, 4-way balancing act that would occur. Potentially the Tholians, the ISC, and Reman alliance against the Carnivon. Like, what would that look like? And then there's this whole tech thing that's happening right now with the like I say, there are some factions out there that I know are probably going to get to MTech very soon. And when they deploy those ships, how is that going to change things? And if you're a faction who has not been investing in MTech, is that going to affect you? Maybe, maybe not. I can guarantee you the Tholians have been investing heavily in tech since day one, knowing that player, knowing how they play, and they're going to deploy M ships soon. Watch the Tholians. When the Tholians start deploying MTech, and if they have MTech and they have access to go through wormholes, that's going to be a big, big pain in somebody's butt. Big pain. How that's all going to play out, we shall see. But like I say, that's my thought experiment. Of course, the other way to go is that if the Hydrans come back and they are able to push into ISC space, again, the ISC don't have a lot of room. If the Hydrans are able to turn the tide on the ISC and push them back, it can very quickly turn the other way. So if the Carnivons can help push back into ISC space and grab some of those key resources away from the ISC and make that change, I think that fight, that war can change substantially very, very soon. All right, let's do a really quick chat on the look at the chat here. Before I do that, I just noticing we haven't cracked double digits for this live stream, so hurts my heart. But I'm noticing that we are at 5 likes relative to just 9 concurrent viewers. So if you've watched this up to now, thank you so much. If you're enjoying what you're watching, please consider hitting the thumbs up button. And of course, if you're not already subscribed like Lex Chaotica is with us here, then please consider joining our group as we are working towards the 500 subscriber count number. That unlocks the community tab for us, and we're really looking to be able to unlock that to be able to provide you more and different types of content. So back into the chat. What? We've got Bill. Bill saying Hydran Empire is just Carnarvon North and Orion Central. Fair enough. Jim is laughing, saying he's teaching, not giving up. Good. Pyrrhic victories don't win games. Interesting. Dell showing off his space vampire emoji. Dell, what's down? What's down, Charlie Brown? Oh, Dell joining us here today. Thank you. Good evening. Sorting out the children of the night. They are being rowdy. MTech, why? Who's got that? Bill says. In the next 10 to 20 turns, I wonder. Maybe the Gorn are hiding the fact that they've already got MTech. When the Gorn have MTech, watch out. Granted, the introduction of their ships is a little convoluted, but when the Gorn start fielding some MTech ships, it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out. So. What do you think about the current evolution of the game? What do you think about the balance of power? What do you think about the loss of that space dock, that YDK on the border with the ISC? Was it the smart play for the Hydrants to back away and give up that ground and that key piece of infrastructure? Or should they have stood and fought? Should they have had their last stand kind of moment and force the ISC to bloody themselves on the bastions of that YDK? I don't know. You tell me. Add it in the comments if you're catching us on the replay. If you are otherwise in the chat, then looking forward to be able to talk with you on Discord in a moment or two. Lastly, I will say thank you, everybody, for your support. There we go. With the coffee, really helps. Little things like being able to pay for the images and the assets that we use to make the thumbnails. Even just like being able to have the bandwidth to be able to do live streams at high quality video and audio, and all the other sort of assets and tools that go into sort of making this for all of you. So thank you very, very much for that. Also, if you are interested in joining our Discord, we would love to have you. It is a place of fun banter back and forth, and of course, the narrative story gameplay that occurs on our server. Nothing too fancy, but if you want to join us there and you also like supporting what we do here, then please consider checking out the coffee link that you can see right down there. Or if Patreon's more your style, you can see that in the description for this video as well, and you can join there. The tiers are the same, and you can join our there's a tier there to be able to join our Discord channel along with some monthly support. So thank you so much one way or the other for your like, your subscribe, and or your support, and of course just joining us, being here and watching this, that you've been with us for now nearly an hour and a half. So thank you very much for that. I will let you off with this last bomb to be dropped. Wait for it. The new game is coming. The new game will be announced in June. The signups for the game have already begun. For those of you who are already supporters. For those of you who are not supporters, be on the lookout because the announcement is coming in June as to when we are going to start the game. It's coming. I can tell you that there are some factions that are going to be fun to play. The GM of this game is going to be a player in that game. It's going to be so interesting to see how he takes his lessons learned and walks that out. There are going to be some changes to the rules. We'll talk about those in the announcement video, but that is coming in June. Be on the lookout for it. If you want to make sure you don't miss it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you want to be first on the list to be able to join the game, make sure that you're a supporter of some type, Coffee, Patreon, something like that. If you want to be part of, then please make sure that you can join our Discord and be your finger on the pulse of what's going on when it comes to the development of this game. Eugene, I've heard you say that you want to be able to get into playing this game. Well, this would be a great opportunity if you're not already on the list. So I will see you all in the live stream next week. I will see you all in the Discord for those of you that are joining us there. And of course, I will see you in the month of June with the announcement of the new game that's coming. With all that said, thank you so much, everybody. I will see you next week. Bye for now.